Shalom. Giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations, as always, to the elect. And I wanted to do a prophecy watch, prophecy update video. I don't want to make it too long, but as you can see on the screen from the YouTube page redacted, all right, NATO is finished if it makes this move, all right, and Putin, all right, is ready. All right, so this individual here, all right, is speaking with Clayton Morris, as you can see here, Douglas McGregor, former senior advisor to Secretary of Defense. So again, as we've always told you, you know, you have the two witnesses, but you also have a third witness set up in the form of people who were once a part of the system and who don't agree with the way things are going. They don't agree with the direction Babylon the Great is going. So as the scriptures say, all right, their own tongues would fall upon themselves. All right, so that third witness in the form of these, you know, ex-members of the system, and they're still a part of it, but they're angry about certain things and they see certain things. So they have particular insights. So they're doing interviews, they're going on these various different platforms, and they're calling things out. So as you can see here, the title, all right, is NATO is finished. All right, which we know NATO, all right, in the EU fulfills the beast on which the whore Babylon the Great rides. Okay, and we've seen, you know, this proxy war going on in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, all right, in which, you know, there were particular agreements made, you know, years after the Cold War, which the Cold War never ended. It just continued through these proxies, which we see, you know, Ukraine is an example of that. Okay, and ultimately Ukraine is being funded heavily by the United States. All right, and you have particular NATO countries, all right, and you have particular EU countries, you know, who have given their, you know, alliance to the beast system for the purpose of Babylon the Great. All right, they're growing weary. All right, and they don't like the direction, all right, that this thing is going. All right, because pretty much there was pacts made that NATO would no longer push, all right, eastward towards Russia, all right, and them trying to add Ukraine, all right, to NATO was a slap in the face, and it went against, all right, the, you know, the covenant, the agreement that they had that NATO wouldn't push further towards Russia, because, you know, if NATO adds Ukraine to their, you know, to their beast system, all right, then that will give them an ally, you know, in the direct front yard of Russia, which they're not having that. So of course they're going to have friction. Of course there's going to be back and forth. Of course there's going to be war, but we know behind it is the elites, all right, using America, okay, to ultimately get things spicy, because ultimately prophecy has to be fulfilled. The kings of the earth aren't operating on their own merit. All of these things are happening because it's eventually going to lead to what is known as Armageddon, World War III, the war to end all right, to put an end to this age, in which we know in that war is going to be started by Russia, Iran, Libya, Ethiopia, Turkey, you know, and various different countries who are aligning themselves, all right, with Russia in these latter days via biblical prophecy, you know, shooting missiles on the land of Israel, which we know the land of Israel has been used as a, you know, in biblical prophecy, they're used to draw all of these nations out to war. Okay, and we're living in a time where, you know, America, Babylon the Great, is being looked down upon for their support for Israel, all right, and for their role, all right, in this war dealing with Ukraine, amongst various, other, issues. All right. Many of the beast, all right, system countries that have aligned themselves with America through, a covenant, through one consent. All right. As it talks about in the book of Obadiah, the confederacy they have, many of these different nations are now looking down upon Babylon the Great and have a side eye and understand that they got to get her out of the way. They're in the way of the NWO that they want to establish. So I'm going to play some of this video and we're going to get some scriptures. All right. But as this individual, all right, is going to go into, all right, America, the West, NATO is the modern day Rome, the revival of Rome, and it's being weakened. So let's check this out.
Anything he wanted given to him by the emperor. So I think there's a certain amount of self-delusion involved with that. But he knows the Germans have no interest in this. Nobody in Europe has an interest in going to war in Ukraine.
See that? None of these European countries, all right, really want this war with Ukraine. But who's pushing it hard? Who do you see? Ukraine, we got to do this. We got to do that. Just when you think it's over, the Babylon the Great just pops up with, more money to send, to Ukraine for this proxy war, right? Which they're funding it, all right, but their name isn't technically on, all right, the war, all right. It's you hear Ukraine, you keep seeing, NATO, but we know Babylon the Great is at the forefront of it all, and the sanctions that are being put against Russia are, they're ruining business for a lot of these European countries who rely on Russia for particular, goodies. Okay, for particular resources. So a lot of these, Germany is one. A lot of these, EU NATO countries, they're tired of it. All right, which this goes into Daniel the 2nd chapter, that at the very end of this beast system they will be divided.
All of this is a proxy effort. What can we do to weaken Russia? You would think by now the fools would recognize that all they've done is strengthen Russia. Russia is stronger militarily now than it's been since the 1980s.
See, and that goes into prophecy. Okay, let's get it. Ezekiel the 38th chapter. All right. In the 2nd verse, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog. Okay, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. The region of Turkey, Armenia. Russia ultimately has, dominion over it. And these different regions are aligning themselves with Russia in these latter days. Okay. Turkey, who was a big, is the biggest military power of NATO. One of them, I would say, of course, Babylon. But as you're going to see, all of it's being weakened. Their mindset, against what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on, with the Israel's doing to Palestine, it's against the overall mission that Babylon wants. See, so they're siding with Russia, all right, and eventually they're going to go all the way with it. So the Lord is going to use infighting, division, all right, to take this powerful beast down. Because again, if it was all upon the flesh, if we relied on the flesh for this system to fall, no, it's going to take the Heavenly Father working on the minds of the kings, as well as this powerful message in the form of this everlasting gospel being preached. Because us preaching these things, speak these things into existence. This wasn't made to just sit on the page like the elder Bon Sapa said. These prophecies were made to literally make things happen on the planet Earth. And these prophecies are coming off the page and say, thus saith the Lord God. And we know that, the land of Magog, all right, Gog just means like chief, all right, but the land of Magog is in the area of Russia, all right, which is the land of Japhet, but Edomites now occupy that land, all right, and they're being used in these latter days via biblical prophecy, all right, to get things started, to get things popping. And it says, and thus said the Lord God, I am against thee, O Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. So the Lord is against Russia as well. However, they're going to be used, all right, to establish a very, very, negative mindset towards the West and towards NATO and all of that. and get things popping. All right. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even with a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. And a modern day sword we know as the missile. Okay, Persia, Ethiopia, Libya. Persia is Iran, Ethiopia, all right, Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. And this is all being fulfilled. You can literally look up pacts between, Russia and Iran, Russia and Ethiopia, which, over in Ethiopia, they allow Russia, all right, to come over and set up, a military training basis. Okay, I forget the word. All right, but the Russia has influence over in Ethiopia. They're training up their military, and they're also able to set up, all right, stations where nuclear missiles and things like that can be shot. Libya, look up Russia and Libya. All of these pacts are happening right before our eyes. All of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all of his bands in the house of Togomar in the north quarters, and his bands and many people with him. All right, Germany, Turkey, all of these different areas. All right, be thou prepared for thyself and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be a guard unto them. So Russia is being a guard to many nations. Many of the African nations are leaning on Russia after their economies have been destroyed. They're no longer looking to go to the beast system for aid. They're turning to Russia, and in return, all right, Russia is able to go over here and gain allies, set up military training bases, okay, and establish, more and more members to the beast system that they're forming. Okay, so this is happening right now. And NATO is under the impression that they're still dealing with that weakened version of Russia that disbanded when the USSR was disbanded, in the, I believe, 80s and 90s, that Cold War era. All right. They're in such a delusion. All right. Because what is the mindset surrounding, all right, NATO, all right, which is the revival of Rome, of course, with Babylon added. This is Revelation 13:4. And they worship the dragon, which gave power to the beast, the ancient Roman Empire, which is what gives this beast system its power, seat, and authority. And this is what they're reestablishing in the earth from the Renaissance till now. And they worship the beast, saying, who was like unto the beast? Who was able to make war with him? See, that's the mindset centered around Babylon the Great, NATO. Like, we'll just crush them, we'll just obliterate them. But as we're going to show you in this video, all right, they got another thing coming. Let's go back.
Has an interest in going to war in Ukraine. All of this is a proxy effort. What can we do to weaken Russia? You would think by now the fools would recognize that all they've done is strengthen Russia. Russia is stronger militarily now than it's been since the 1980s. Now they're showing you the latest tactical nuclear weapons, mobile nuclear missiles that can essentially hit any target they need to in Europe. They could.
See, the scriptures talks about how it said to let the weak say I'm strong. So NATO looked at, Russia as weak, and the different nations who are aligning themselves with Russia have been looked at as weak. You even got North Korea talking shit in these times. These are things that would never be boasted against Babylon. And, this is how we're living at a time where NATO, the beast system, is being weakened. And America, which is at the forefront of it all, is losing its influence, losing its power. Russia is gaining its power because of prophecy, which we just read a piece of it. Okay?
Vaporize airfields, ports, cities as needed. The other thing is we don't have any air defense. In other words, we talk about air and missile defense, but we really don't have much.
In the United States?
Well, both in the United States and in Europe. We've always depended on our air forces, and the underlying assumption has been that our air forces can penetrate anything and drop bombs with impunity.
And that, that ultimately, going back here, all right, going to Revelation, the 13th chapter, because people worship this concept of the beast system, America, NATO, EU. They worship it in the sense that nobody will be able to take this military down. All right. But as you see here, America being formed along with the NATO and the EU was the final print of the Roman Empire being established. Okay, this is what this is talking about in Revelation 13. It says, and he doeth great wonders, Revelation 13 and 13, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men. All right, and this goes into, all right, NATO, all right, who first struck in Bosnia, all right, Kosovo, all right, and on down the line, you would have things like Nagasaki, Hiroshima, which they just decimated, bombed, destroyed particular nations using nuclear capability, nuclear war. See? And people were deceived into believing that the Lord is with these people because of the fire that he was making to come down. This is talking about his ability to just strike you, drone strikes, missiles. See, and all of the surrounding nations bowed to that power for a long time. America, the NATO, they were looked at as untouchable. See? All right, but through ill-gotten gain, through dealing wickedly, breaking covenants, all right, now, all right, the things are changing, things are shifting, all right, and this thing in Ukraine is a proxy war, and to know what a proxy war is, all right, it says a war instigated by a major power. Who's the major power? America, which does not itself become involved. So you don't see America over there in the fight, although they're calling for particular people to go over there and fight, but you don't see America, which Ukraine is nothing but small hats. All right. But you don't see, American troops over there being, America's not directly involved. All right. From my understanding of it, but they're funding it. So that's why it's a proxy war. All right. They're trying to weaken Russia. But really, as people are like the guy is saying, Russia is actually being strengthened through this all. Many people are looking at the dealings of the West, and it's turning their nose up. They got a side eye towards this bitch, this whore. Okay, it says the end of the Cold War brought an end to many of the proxy wars. All right, through which the two sides struggled to exert their influence. And that Cold War, between, the Russia and, the United States, which NATO was created for the purpose of combating the USSR, all right, which Russia, had its strength, but it disbanded. But now we're living in a time where that USSR, the Lord is putting hooks into the jaws, and he's bringing Russia back to that original estate that they were in, which led to NATO being formed in the first place. So let's go back here.
Nuclear weapons, mobile nuclear missiles that can essentially hit any target they need to in Europe. They could vaporize airfields, ports.
He's speaking about Russia's military power. The Lord put hooks into their jaws. He's bringing them back. And you put hooks into the jaws of a wild beast to tame it. So Russia's getting back into that old USSR spirit, that Soviet spirit.
Cities as needed. The other thing is we don't have any air defense. In other words, we talk about air and missile defense, but we really don't have much.
In the United States?
Well, both in the United States and in Europe.
See, NATO, the EU, the beast system is being weakened, reminiscent of ancient Rome. All right. They focus so much on offense, and they spread their military thin all over the world through pride, through the known world at that time. And America's doing it, and they haven't focused on defense because of pride. The pride of thine heart have deceived thee. So you're not focusing on defense. You're just so, the focused on the fact that you're the hammer of the earth. As the scriptures say, how is the hammer of the earth brought to a desolation? This is how it's going to happen through his ill dealings and his wickedness and his ability to. He doesn't have the ability to stop, which the angels are responsible for putting that mindset in him.
We've always depended on our air forces, and the underlying assumption has been that our air forces can penetrate anything and drop bombs with impunity and launch missiles with impunity. That's not really true anymore. The Russians are heavily invested in integrated air defenses, integrated air and missile defenses. They're quite prepared to deal with us if we rely exclusively on the Air Force. And to be blunt, that's all we've got right now.
You see that? That's all we've got right now. Which we know America is capable of a lot of things, but again, it's being weakened. They have the strength of the sword, but again, it's being divided. You see?
Terrifying to think about. We talk about Star Wars of the 1980s. We talk about the Iron Dome in Israel, right? But the United States is sort of a sitting duck here. We can't even handle quote unquote Chinese spy balloons flying over Montana, for crying out loud. We panicked when Balloon Boy was up a number of years ago. Remember that famous story? Yeah. So it's unbelievable to me. I think a lot of people sort of sitting back going about their day-to-day business here. But NATO just keeps going, keeps expanding. Jens Stoltenberg last week telling Zelensky, long-range weapons, we're giving you the green light to attack inside of Russia. NATO membership for Sweden. This is moving right up to their back door. I mean, something has to give here. I mean, we're at this like boiling point moment here, and I don't know what do you think is going to give?
NATO is never so weak as when it appears to be strong. The more talk you hear about unity of effort and larger, more powerful NATO capabilities, the less seriously you should take any of these comments. You've got 32 states today constituting the so-called NATO alliance, getting agreement on much of anything, including...
They can't agree on anything, which we're going to get, Daniel, the second chapter. But let's keep listening. They don't agree. They have, the numbers, but they don't agree on anything. Right? A lot of countries are looking side-eye. It's like America is that bold fellow. The scriptures say, travel not with a bold fellow, because he's going to get you into all of these different, dealings that is going to eventually work against you. That's how these countries are looking at the way these people are moving.
Which door do we use in the conference room to get to the bathroom is impossible. There's no unity of thinking or effort at all. The whole sham alliance is designed to create avenues of approach for Europeans to us. It's another channel of communication to try and acquire U.S. favor and support.
That's what it was all about. See? Let's get the scripture in Revelation, the 17th chapter. Okay, this is just what's getting ready to happen. In the 16th verse, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, this represents the EU. It started out as 10, member nations, and then eventually, Esau now has the fatness of the earth. So now you have more countries. I believe it's now close to 29. Okay, because they have the fatness of the earth. They have more room, all right, and power and control than they had in the ancient Roman time. Right, so the ancient Roman Empire had their vassals and subordinate states as well. So does the U.S. in the form of the 10 horns, the EU. These are subordinate vassal states who ultimately, have given their allegiance to this beast system. All right, up until this point where now they don't agree anymore. So the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore is Babylon, and shall make her desolate and naked, to eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So these different nations that are now aligned with Babylon, all right, they're going to disagree. For God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree to give their kingdom to the beast, and to the words of the Most High be fulfilled. So they agreed to give, their authority, all right, that they've operated in favor of Babylon, all right, up until this point where now they're tired of it. See, which goes to Daniel, the second chapter. Okay, Daniel the second chapter. So prophecy is being fulfilled, man. Daniel the second chapter in the 40th verse. I'm gonna just read through it. In the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron that breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise. This is what the Roman Empire did through the power given unto them. You know, they went and took down many nations, and this is the authority that this beast system has ran with. All right, they've been reestablishing Rome ever since the Renaissance. Okay, the fourth beast is Rome, but the revival of it would end all things. This is the kingdom that Yahushua is going to return through, is the revival of this fourth kingdom, this fourth beast, which is strong as iron because of their military, which the Roman Empire, all right, studied the Assyrian military. Okay, this is why in prophecy, America, this final kingdom, is likened unto Assyria as well. All right, because they're very oppressive. It says, and whereas thou sawest the feet and the toes of the potter's clay, part iron, all right, part of the potter's clay and part of iron, all right, the end, the feet, okay, the feet of this vision represents the very end of, all right, these kingdoms that are ruling, which is the revival of Rome, is how that's going to be fulfilled. All right. The kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it the strength of iron, for as much as thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay. So the strength of the iron represents the fact that they do have the power of the sword. Remember, Esau was blessed with the sword. All right. But then you have that miry clay, where it's hard for them to move forward with their plan because economically they don't agree. All right. Certain military actions that have been taken to support Babylon, the Great America, they don't agree. All right, morally they don't agree. Who's gonna have what in this new world they're bringing? They don't agree on. Okay, so that they don't agree on a lot as this individual is going into, and I'm gonna replay what he says and play it to a particular point to end it off. But we are at this point where what? As the toes of the feet were part iron and part clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. All right, so it's not, all right, the Lord is destroying this system from the inside out. Okay, the kingdom is partly strong because, of course, they have the sword, but it's broken because they don't agree, which this goes to the book of Obadiah, right? The book of Obadiah. Okay, verse 6. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? And he's being exposed synonymously while all this is happening. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee, all right, have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. And they that eat thy bread, who have, bought into this system, taken on that dollar, all right, that debt, have laid a wound under thee, and there is none understanding in him. So there's a wound, a snare being set for Babylon the Great. All right, as it says in the NLT, all your allies will turn against you. All right, they will help to chase you from your land. See, they're going to shoot missiles over here. They will promise you peace while plotting to deceive and to destroy you. All right, your trusted friends will set traps for you. All right, and won't even know about it. Okay, so there's a snare being laid for Babylon. All right, and we see it happening right now. Okay, Jeremiah 50:24. I have laid a snare for thee, O Babylon, and thou art also taken, and thou was not aware. Thou art found and are also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord. See, and Esau is the one who controls this modern day Babylon the Great. See? The hammer of the earth. The Lord have opened his armory and have brought forth the weapons of his indignation, for this is the work of the Lord of hosts. Okay, in the land of the Chaldeans, in the modern day Chaldeans, all right, represent the elites that control this very system. Okay? And the land that they operated out of all of these years to get them this stronghold was Babylon, America, that rides the whore, that rides the beast. The America's the whore that rides the beast. So they used these European countries to get done what they want worldwide. Now a lot of these countries are pissed off at the whore. Come against her from the uttermost border, open her storehouses, cast up her heaps, destroy her utterly, let nothing be left. And this is what's getting ready to come to Babylon the Great. Okay? This is what's happening. Call the archers, 29, against Babylon, all ye that bend the bow, all of these nations, and Russia's at the forefront of it. Camp against it round about. Let none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work, according to all she have done, do unto her. For she have been proud against Yahweh, against the Holy One of Israel. All right, so therefore war is coming. Your young men are going to be destroyed. But Daniel, the second chapter, talks about this divided Rome. Okay, as the feet, all right, verse 42, Daniel 2 and 42, and as the toes of the feet were part iron and part clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, okay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, meaning they will go among these various different nations, making pacts, making agreements, okay, overtaking governments, right, using their wealth and influence and the banks, all right, to get particular, countries under their authority and rule. All right, being subject to them, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So even though all of these agreements and pacts and confederacies have been made, now we're starting to see a lot of these nations that were in league with Babylon, even that are a part of the beast system, renege. Saudi Arabia, to a degree, has reneged. Okay, that's one of the major allies of Babylon the Great. They're now, all right, in talks of joining BRICS, or have joined BRICS, which is a way outside of the dollar, which we know the elites ultimately have their hands in all of this. All right, but again, this is the Lord operating on the minds of the kings. Okay, so going back to this individual, let's play it again. Start from 6 minutes.
To their back door. I mean, something has to give here. I mean, we're at this like boiling point moment here, and I don't know what do you think is going to give?
NATO is never so weak as when it appears to be strong. The more talk you hear about unity of effort and larger, more powerful NATO capabilities, the less seriously you should take any of these comments. You've got 32 states today constituting the so-called NATO alliance. Getting agreement on much of anything, including, which door do we use in the conference room to get to the bathroom, is impossible.
They don't agree with how to get to the bathroom. Showing you that what we just read in biblical prophecy is taking place right now.
Unity of thinking or effort at all. The whole sham alliance is designed to create avenues of approach for Europeans to us. It's another channel of communication to try and acquire U.S. favor and support. And
that's what it was all for. We just read, okay, in Revelation, the 17th chapter, that God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will and to give their kingdom to the beast system until the words of the Most High be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth.
Backing. These are all small countries today. They're much like the Greek city-states in the age of the Roman Empire. We're a sort of declining Rome at this point.
You hear that? We're a declining Rome at this point. Call Halal Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Because this is Rome all over again. And just like Rome fell, this empire will fall. Okay? As the scriptures say, how is the hammer of the earth come to a naught? All right? No one ever thought that they would see the day where the West was this weak, looked at as a joke, where NATO will be divided. The EU divided. This powerhouse was supposed to dominate the world forever.
Americans will figure that out and act against it, but we're a decline.
Start at 7 again. Listen to him. Listen to the man.
And backing. These are all small countries today. They're much like the Greek city-states in the age of the Roman Empire. We're a sort of declining Rome at this point. I hope Americans will figure that out and act against it, but we're a declining Rome. The European states are like the little Greek city-states that were entirely dependent upon Roman military power to save them from the Macedonians. This whole business is a sham. NATO is probably not going to survive. I wouldn't pay any attention to any of it. I think Schultz knows that if he takes a stupid decision, let's send 3 German brigades, towards Belarus, something like that, he'll be out of office. Not only will his political structure collapse, will the economy tank, but the whole NATO alliance will go out of business.
See that? And this is a colonel. Okay, so he was in there. He knows, what's going on. Okay? He had rank. Okay? They're used to go throughout the 4 corners of the earth. All right, and enforce policy. So he knows what he's talking about. Again, their own tongues is falling upon themselves.
I want to ask you to put on your political hat for a moment. Of course, you served Donald Trump at the Pentagon, and you see what's happening now in an election year. You see this back and forth fighting over Ukraine aid. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, saying, look, I'm not giving up this leverage. That seems to be the only leverage they have right now, Republicans have, which is this Ukraine aid to try to get something done at the U.S. southern border. But at the end of the day, Victoria Nuland says, I see Congress passing this money. There's going to be another $60 billion that'll flow to Ukraine. What do you think is going to happen in Washington? Will this aid get passed, moved towards Ukraine?
On one hand, Victoria Nuland is referring to the structure of power in Washington, which is entirely in the hands of the great lobby and lobbies. Right. In other words, not the Israel lobby, the defense lobby, any number of wealthy billionaire oligarchs that have bought up politicians for years. They are ultimately making policy in Washington, D.C. So she's banking on that working. There's a problem with that assumption. And the problem is that everyone in the United States who is an American citizen, I'm talking about Americans, those of us that don't hyphenate our identity, those of us who don't live here part-time or only when the weather's good or something else, we're Americans. We are not interested in what's happening anywhere in the world, but right now, our own country and the southern border. Everyone is watching millions upon millions of people pile into this country. People that we are not only not vetting, but these are people that are supposed to be rapidly repurposed as future voters for the Uniparty in Washington, D.C. to provide for permanent government. Americans are waking up. They figured that out. They're watching the criminality. We could sit here and talk for hours about all the crimes committed by these recently arrived so-called migrants. They're just illegal aliens that the administration has decided to let in. And they've got lots of backing from wealthy people. You've got people like the Koch brothers that support this sort of thing for reasons that they have that are exclusively of importance to them. There's no one with any real money or power influencing Washington decision-making in favor of the country. In other words, you, I, and millions of us are really not represented.
Right, because the global agenda is being put in place, and the global agenda is a new world order, not to make America great again. See? America and the concept of it is done with the elites are done with that. They just have to continuously, crash this economy, continually bring all of these immigrants over. All right, continuously bring all this confusion so that they can just go ahead and justify bringing the sword and coming down with great wrath on the people. Okay? And these things must happen. All right? This is our rites of passage. This is how it is written for us to get up out of here. These things must be.
So we're told, stand around, sit down, don't get excited, and let us overrun your country and create a new majority that will govern you and reduce you effectively to a shameless, mindless consumer.
Right. A cyborg with a charagma juice jabbed up through. Okay? And form a one world government to reestablish trust, peace, safety. This is where it's all going. You can't see it?
Be part of the sheeple and shut up. And don't worry about the economy. We'll continue to print money. I mean, look at your GDP figures. Everybody says, oh, this is great. Well, a third to half of that's government money anyway.
Right.
People don't seem to get it. You've talked about the economy. That thing is on its way down into the abyss. But until it strikes, people will stand back and they'll wonder and wait. But at some point, things that fall into the abyss eventually reach bottom. And then all hell is going to break loose. But no one today who is going to vote and wants to vote, who cares about the country, gives a damn what's happening in Eastern Europe, or for that matter, in the Middle East. No one's interested in joining these wars. They don't want us to be dragged into these wars. They want things to be made right here at home. And if I were advising President Trump, and I'm sure he has plenty of people telling those, doesn't matter what you say about the other things. What is the top issue for American people? Border security, end to illegal immigration, crush the criminality, expel the illegals. That's what Americans want. Talk about that, you're going to get elected. I think he knows that.
You know Trump very well. If he becomes president again, clearly it looks like he's going to win the Republican nomination unless something crazy happens with Nikki Haley and the deep state wanting to install her in his stead. But if he becomes the Republican nominee and if he goes on to win the election and you were to advise the president, what would you advise him to do on Ukraine?
Well, as far as Ukraine is concerned, I would immediately announce a suspension of all aid to the Ukrainian regime, to Zelensky. Then privately, through channels, I would let Moscow know that we're interested in settling this issue as quickly as possible.
See, but that's not prophecy. Again, the let the weak say I'm strong. The Lord it's gonna be an evil thought put into the mind of Russia. And war is coming. Before that, civil war. People against people, raiding these, government buildings. It's getting ready to go down, man. All right? All right?
Let us know when and where you want to meet, and we'll help settle this issue. And I would inform all of our NATO allies of the same thing. So that's the way you handle Ukraine. It's not going to happen overnight. I know he says, well, I can...
Yeah, if America, was to ever be made great again, all of these talking points would be great. But America ain't going to be made great again. Okay? Trump is a pawn in the whole grand scheme of things who's just going to be used to bring you to into the very same pit that the left or Democrats, all right? Because this is the argument is the nationalist, all right, versus globalist agenda. Nationalists are for their people, for America only first. The globalist agenda is for the global agenda. And we know damn well where it's going. America ain't supposed to be made great because prophecy says so. But the elites of this world, all right, are being used to make sure of that as well. They done with this project. It doesn't represent what they want for the new world that they're trying to bring. Too many freedoms, too many liberties, all right. Too much thought, too much, freedom of speech. It doesn't go with the narrative they want. All right.
Stop this in 24 hours. But even if you told the Russians you were going to do that, they'd wait for 2 weeks to see whether or not you did it.
Right.
Yeah, there's no reason for them to believe us.
Well, they know in the Tucker Carlson interview, they've been lied to multiple times. Promises made by Bill Clinton, promises made by George W. Bush, promises made over and over again and that have been broken. So they're going to sit back and wait to see if this is a legitimate move or not. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to watch what Donald Trump does on these big issues if he's paying attention.
One thing to remember about President Trump is that every one of his rallies that he attended in 2016 when he was running for election the first time, you had tens of thousands of people chant the same slogan over and over and over again. Build the wall, build the wall, build the wall. He was elected, and what did he do? He focused on Obamacare. So my concern is much will depend upon the people who surround him, the people to whom he listens.
Right. Again, they tell you one thing and then another thing happens. But overall, the point has been made. Let's end it off here. The hammer, This is Jeremiah 50:23. How is the hammer of the whole world cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation, all right, among the nations? This is all a snare. Babylon is being ensnared. Hopefully I'll edify on to the next show.